I'm Mark Dresner, and this is the Research Insider, brought to you by the Future of Consumer Intelligence Conference. Joining us today is Katie Mogul. She is the Innovation Lead in Consumer Insights from Logitech. Katie, welcome to the program.
Thanks.
It's great to have you here. You've been giving a lot of thought lately to consumer insights as an agent for cultural change. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in our company, and I think in a lot of tech companies, there's traditionally been an engineering-driven culture, because if you could get to market faster with a technological innovation, that's how you could win. And today, technology innovation is almost a commodity, because as soon as you put something into the marketplace, somebody else can replicate it very quickly or improve it. So technology innovation in and of itself isn't giving us the competitive advantage we need to grow. And I think the way we're really going to win is by understanding the consumer need and then marrying that to the technological innovation. And so what that requires is for us to reorient the whole culture around the need of the consumer, and that's a major shift. And that's I think our biggest task today.
Yeah. Are there any strategies or approaches that you're currently using to get there, or is it?
I think it's really about understanding organizational culture and how organizations learn. So what I've been working on a lot is, what are the learning styles within Logitech? How do people take in information? What gives information credibility? What captures people's attention? And then developing our deliverables around that. And another thing we're trying to do is really bring people in earlier in the process. So rather than showing up with a final presentation and saying, voila, here are the findings, we're trying to bring people on our journey. So expose people to raw data. If we're doing ethnography, bring engineers into field with us. If we're doing a digital ethnography where we've got a platform, give lots of people logons and let them observe that platform in real time. So making a lot of different stakeholders partners in the process.
How do you think, or how do we move the consumer upstream in the innovation process? And innovation is obviously a core part of your responsibilities.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of companies have declared that they're going to be consumer-centric, and that innovation is going to start with the consumer. And then the challenge becomes, and it often falls to the consumer insights group to make this happen, how are we actually implementing that? So how are we putting the consumer at the front of the process? And I think it goes back to the idea of cultural change. So assessing where are we now, and where do we want to be, and what's the gap, and how do we fill it? And then I think it also requires commitment from the top. So you can't just say it and then walk away from it. I think that senior leadership has to reinforce that through actions, including funding consumer insights and asking. So if we have a gate meeting and we've got a product that could go onto a roadmap, the question needs to be asked by senior leadership: what is the consumer need that this is fulfilling? If that question never comes up and things keep going onto the roadmap with no consumer value proposition, then the organization is not going to care about the consumer. So.
Right. And you're dealing in an environment, to use that old Henry Ford quote, if I'd asked the consumer what they wanted, I would have gotten a faster horse.
That's right. And there was recently an article on LinkedIn about sort of the worst thing that Steve Jobs ever did for product development, which was to give the impression that you should never do research, which certainly isn't the case at Apple. The point he was making was what you just said, that you don't go out and ask people what do they need 5 years from now, because they can't tell you. Right. But what you can definitely do is, through the right approaches, you can understand what's missing, how could an experience be better, and then through good design, you can develop those experiences that are really based in an identified need.
I love that. I love that idea of experiences, because research itself is an experience that people, and it's changing, I think. You've given us a great deal to think about here. Thank you very much for
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure. That concludes this episode of the Research Insider. I'm Mark Dresner. Thanks for tuning in.